Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Cryptic here, and today I am going to be doing the US presidential tier list on the site tiermaker.com. Got it a little bit different, as you can see here. We still got our S ranking and our F ranking, but I've added some variations so that hopefully there's not too much overlap. And this will be going from Presidents George Washington all the way to Joe Biden currently. So we're not shying away from anything. We're not worried about nothing. We're going to go through every single U.S. president, and Grover Cleveland only gets one spot. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. I'm going to have my computer up here on the side, as I'm not the expert historian that I would like to be, and I don't want to be stupid and mess up any of these. And some of them, I'm going to give a quick Wikipedia search too, just so I'm not forgetting anything. I definitely have impulse decisions on some of them, but, we're going to, and there's no undecideds either. I know some people put undecided because of Harrison or, some others. No undecideds. Everyone's going to get a spot. This will be mostly focused on the time as president, although I'm going to, if there's something I like prior to or after, I will include that in my thinking if it's something really major, but it will not be a whole biography, and it won't just be excluded to their time as president necessarily. Also, I'll probably just bounce around with these, get some of them out of order. Let's knock out the easy ones first, right? So we got Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln is going to be an S tier. For future reference, if I have two in the same column, then who's ever closer to the letter is higher on the board, right? So if I have someone here at F and then someone down here at F, that's the worst of the lot. So just so that makes sense. All right, so Abraham Lincoln, obvious S tier, wins us the Civil War. Absolute badass of a president. Pulled the Constitution in certain ways as needed to save the Union. So there's things that can be said one way or another about that, but we all know the true story. So Abraham Lincoln, that's an easy S. Also, George Washington, I'm gonna go A+. The only reason that George Washington does not get an S for me, as a lot of people do have him in S, is because the man behind the legend seemed, from my vantage point in history class and other things, to be sometimes behind the eight ball as far as, what's the word I'm looking for? Say, palace politics were concerned. Sometimes he didn't know he was being played by one side against the other side and vice versa, when in fact he most certainly was. And it's pretty embarrassing. Like, how do you not see that you're being played? So yeah, very amazing, almost up there, but just not quite 150,000%, but almost. And almost counts for something, I think. All right, any other easy ones we can get off the board here? This man, Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter's an F. D-. D- because he was able to get us that great Camp David summit between the Israelis and the Egyptians. So that's pretty good, like, world stage wise. He was able to free some hostages from the Iran situation, and that Iran situation was not caused by him. But yeah, terrible on economics, terrible on the economy and oil, inflation, jobs, pretty much all the kitchen table stuff. He did have some good foresight as far as renewables. I think he figured out what people like ExxonMobil and other oil companies already knew, which was that this isn't going to last forever. Eventually the Roaring Twenties comes to an end. Like, we got to figure out a different method to get out of here. So I'd say like two redeeming qualities about the guy as president, and then, or maybe, two and a half, and then about 10 or 12, like, just god awful things. All right. Ronald Reagan. I'm going to put Ronald Reagan as an A minus. I think Reagan's a little bit overhyped. He did a bunch of stuff that people kind of forget about and didn't like. There's Iran Contra, there's, an AIDS crisis that wasn't funded as quickly as it probably needed to have been to really nip it in the bud. Great leader for the nation. Ends communism in our time, or rather, ends the Soviet Union. Does some things I don't personally like. Gets a woman on the Supreme Court, but only because he made a campaign promise to put Sandra Day O'Connor on the Supreme Court. And I am not a fan of making promises based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, anything other than pure merit. It would have been so much more impactful had he just kept those personal thoughts in his back pocket, become president, and then appoint Sandra Day O'Connor because she was the best person for the job. I think that is way more influential than saying, we haven't had a woman on the Supreme Court, so let's put a woman on the Supreme Court. And, he raised taxes at a certain point, so got a little flip-floppy there. But a bunch of great things, speaking truth to power, getting deals signed with major world leaders, particularly Gorbachev. So yeah, A minus. Okay, who's next? Let's get through the easy ones first. John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy's a good man. I'm gonna give him a. He's in the B's. He's not a C president for sure. I'm gonna give him a B minus. Oh, this is tough. I'm gonna give him a B. People usually knock him down because of the Bay of Pigs invasion. However, that wasn't a planned invasion that was already planned for by President Eisenhower. So Eisenhower already had the whole thing set up. The generals were all there. And then you got a freshly cut U.S. president coming in, and like day two, the Joint Chiefs of Staff and everything is like, hey, we got this great plan set together. We just need you to sign off on it. It was basically already signed off on by the other guy, so, let's just keep it running. And you're like in the job for like 5 days. You're going to say yes to, most of that stuff. Did really well with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Was a great, great leader. Really a great bipartisan president. Cut taxes, which I love. And yeah, true man's man. Just what can you say about the guy, really? I know some people like to put him lower because they think that he's put too high by other people, so they want to overcompensate and put him lower. But I think really what you should do with that is just put him where he belongs. Put him in the B's, not the A pluses, as probably some people have him. All right. Nixon. Really effective president. Let me hold that there. Really effective president when he was being president. You know, the whole peace through strength thing. You know, it's all good. You know, other people wiretapped other um, campaigns, you know, before. He did more stuff than that, though. That, like, Watergate is so watered down to, like, the bare essentials at this point. He also, like, broke into people's, like, medical files and tried to get, like, dirt on them that way and destroyed tapes and stuff like that. And I mean, he recorded his whole presidency, basically, because he thought in his head that he's going to have a great story to tell afterwards. Like, that's just so fucked up to be thinking about, like, 4 years, 5 years down the road, like, hey, I'm gonna have a great book deal after I get out of here. That's shitty. But when he was actually doing his job, it was a pretty good job. Extends Vietnam into Laos and Cambodia, though, which is a negative. However, you needed to do that because of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And then the winter bombing campaigns, the Christmas bombing campaigns. I mean, he was given Vietnam by Johnson. I think it's a C. Yeah, he's just right there. Did a lot of stupid things, but was also pretty effective. One thing I forgot to mention about JFK was that he helped desegregate schools in the South, which was really good. And then Nixon finished it up too. I think Nixon's presidency marked the end of segregated schools. So that was great. Gerald Ford. I don't know a lot about Ford, I'll be honest. This will be one actually that I want to refer to Wikipedia on to make sure I'm not missing anything. My original inclination is just to put him at like a C. But let me see if maybe, you know, that's too harsh or not harsh enough. Attempted assassination by the Manson family. Ooh, North Vietnam by Lynette Squeaky Fromm. Lynette Squeaky Fromm. Judicial appointments. He appointed John Paul Stevens. All right, that gets you knocked down a couple of pegs. I'm gonna give him a D plus. D plus because Vietnam, inflation, John Paul Stevens as Supreme Court, and yeah, those are the big ones. And then not F because assassination attempts, you can't give someone an F for that. That's a lot of, oh yeah, and he let Cheney and Rumsfeld take over his administration, essentially. And pardon Nixon, it was the right move, so that keeps him from an F. And it provided him some breathing room to deal with some economic issues, which I'm not sure how much of that he did, really. Anyway, Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ. Where are we putting LBJ? LBJ got us into Vietnam. It's a big negative. But he did pass civil rights, although apparently he had to get pushed into it. But apparently that was not true by the movie maker of Selma. Apparently he was kind of boorish, a rather boorish president. But he did do the Civil Rights Act. Then he got us into Vietnam, and the Gulf of Tonkin was bullshit. So, he kind of, I'm going to go under Nixon, but above Ford, because at least he did something. And, hey, desegregating, and the Voting Rights Act, too. And housing reform, I think, a little bit. That might have been Nixon already. But, all around good stuff for legislation. War on poverty, complete failure. But other than that, all right, George H.W. Bush. My man, probably the saddest example of a one-term president that we have. Threw up on the Japanese president or prime minister, whatever, at a state dinner. So that was hilarious. And they called him to question his age or some political horseshit. Pretty boring guy, I guess. World War II fighter pilot though, so said he wasn't going to raise taxes and then raised taxes very famously. I'm going to give him a nice B minus. That feels about right. Okay, William Jefferson Clinton. This man gets a lot of hate because of the Monica Lewinsky scandal, but that's all horseshit, man. We got to judge people based on their actions as president, not, for some extramarital nonsense. Where does Billy Bob Clinton go? He's obviously in the top here. Some things that he did to try to get China into the world, like more involved in the world, it may have seemed like a good idea at the time, because China was just like whatever, economy. Horrible Tiananmen Square had happened. And so he's like, yeah, let me give them like a supercomputer. Let me try to get them, into the world. It's sort of what Trump tried to do with Kim Jong-un, like shower him with all this Western so that they see like the benefits of it firsthand and then they'll come around. But instead what they did was they just took the parts that they liked, copied it, didn't give us any money, just copied it, stole it essentially, and then became, a superpower to rival any that's ever been and kept their authoritarian side. So that knocks him down some pegs. I'm going to put him at a B minus, but above George H.W. Bush. Yeah. All right. Barack Obama. Now, I'm definitely more conservative in mindset, more libertarian in mindset, but I do not have such hatred toward this man. I think the country was very much so divided, so he's not going to be an F, is what I'm saying. I think the country was very much so divided during his tenure, but it's been divided since, and it was divided before. Pretty much since the smoke cleared on 9/11, we've been quite divided. So I'm not going to put that all on him. What did he give us? Obamacare? Kind of whatever. I'm going to put him at I'm going to put him above LBJ. He's a C minus president. All right. Truman. So Truman desegregated the military. It's a plus. He dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's maybe needed to be done, but who knows? Truman helped get us, a intelligence agency that we really didn't have prior to his presidency, a really fleshed out one. Although it's kind of run amok since. So I don't know. He had some actions. He botched Korea. Truman's tough, man. Truman's really, really tough. I'm going to put him Yeah. I think I'm going to put him right here. Right behind Nixon at C. George Bush. Oh my God. George Bush. Do I go all the way F, or does he still have enough for a D minus? I think he probably has enough for a D minus. I'll put him actually slightly above Jimmy Carter. It's just, there was just so much that went wrong though, from top to bottom. I mean, good, solid year, 2 years. Economy was good at certain points, but then it just absolutely just flumbered and blubbered, and you know what I'm talking about. All right. So, Ike, Dwight D. Eisenhower. I'm not as crazy about Dwight D. Eisenhower as I think a lot of people are. I think Ike is a C president behind Truman a little bit. He's a little bit too interventionist for my liking, you know, with Iran and South America and all this shit. Like, just stick to your own borders. Korea. Actually, speaking of Korea, Truman really did General MacArthur dirty. That's another reason that he's a C president for me. So yeah, trying to think. I think that's all that we need to say about Ike. Hey, Little Rock though, you know, so that keeps him from C minus. And you know, intelligence gathering was pretty good on that. So, Mr. Trail of Tears. I don't know anything really redeeming about Andrew Jackson, other than he was a pretty decent military leader apparently, and he got screwed out of an election by John Adams' son. But yeah, I mean, forcibly removing millions of Cherokee Indians and other tribes out of the Carolinas and that area. Not good, not bueno. Paid off the national debt though, so he gets some bonus points there. There's a bunch of spoil system stuff, I believe, too, going on then. So I think D fits him pretty well. All right, continuing on. I don't want to do the two recent ones yet. I think I'll save those for the end. Now we're getting like into like the way back time for some of these. Let's do Taft. My boy Taft. I'll do a quick Wikipedia on Taft actually. Listen to this. He had brought 70 cases in 4 years, whereas Roosevelt only brought 40 cases in 7 years. So apparently he was pretty good on that. He announced in his inaugural address that he would not appoint African Americans to federal jobs, such as postmaster. That's pretty lame. Yeah, I mean, other than the racism thing, I think a pretty solid president. I'll put him right at C minus there, a little bit above Obama. That's a pretty shitty thing to put in your inaugural address. I don't know what else to say. Okay, Martin Van Buren, the man, the myth, the legend. Yeah, seems pretty boring. Don't really know what else to say. I guess I'll put him at C plus. Where'd he go? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, anti-slavery at such a time in history, that's tough to be. I'll give him C plus. It's really tough to be anti-slavery in 1848, and even before that in the early 1800s. Very, very difficult as a president. Um, so brownie points for that for sure. Okay, Silent Cal, Calvin Coolidge, my main man. Calvin Coolidge is like an A or an A plus. I'd say A because didn't do a whole much for the Dust Bowl Depression. Although I wonder how much that really could be done. Was president during Prohibition, so I wish he could have reversed that during his reign, so to speak. But you had Roaring '20s, you had great economics for a long period of time, and pretty much a hands-off president, which is what I like. You don't have to make the presidency your full-time job necessarily. You can just be. Oh, I got scared for a minute. I was like, which one's Martin Van Buren? Did it give me two? Oh my God. Did I put... Who would... I'm sorry. Did I put someone... Are these the same man? What the... No, this one's Martin Van Buren. Alright, he goes C+. We'll put this guy back here somewhere, in case I'm missing something. William Henry Harrison. Let's get this one out the way right now. Only was president for 6 weeks, and he died of pneumonia. But he has to go somewhere on the list. There's no room for undecideds here. So let's see what he did. He killed a lot of Indians, apparently, in the Battle of Tippecanoe. So that's not good. But presidency. He was a national bank guy. I'm not a huge national bank person myself. I think the Fed's a little bit amazing. Do not want them to come after me. They have a lot of power, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, damn, where do I put this guy? William Henry Harrison, sir, you're gonna go a solid C, man. Back of the line C. Okay, we'll do a couple familiar ones right now. We'll do T.J. Thomas Jefferson, amazing president. Literally, like, can't say much wrong about the guy. Louisiana Purchase, brilliant. Francophile, so that's a negative. But yeah, help make the Democrat-Republicans the primary party, went against John Adams, who sort of lost his way, if you will, when he became president. I did not like that he couldn't be like a competent vice president, though, because originally it was set that the loser became vice president, which I think is a nice, like, kind of hokey pokey way of running an executive branch. And that's, what the founders were hoping for, that we could all be Americans and not delve into partisan politics, excuse me. But yeah, other than that, pretty solid guy. I'm gonna give him an A. Fought the Barbary Pirates, incredible. Yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting like one or two things. FDR. Now, FDR is not terrible, but he's also not what everybody thinks that he is. FDR probably goes, probably here, just because of the fireside chats and helping out with the Lend-Lease Act, and just had like a good soul, even though some of his things were way too much executive power. Once sort of there became a greater mission, like, for example, if World War II didn't happen, like, imagine it never happened, he'd be down in this general area. But since it did, and he guided us through that like just like laser focused, that gives him that B. What else can you say? All right, time to start resorting back to Wikipedia so I don't make a fool of myself with some of these pictures. All right, let's find John Adams, which was right here. John Adams, I think people go a little too hard on him. Some people do. I think solid guy. You know, quasi-war, so that sucked. Fry's Rebellion, election of 1800, one-term president. Yeah, just kind of lost his way, it seems like. Got bogged down in too many international just bullshit things, XYZ affair, all that. Didn't need to. Alien and Sedition Act, obviously not great, but is a founding father, you know, and very brilliant guy, so we can't forget that. So I think I'm gonna put him, you get to be right behind Taft. That makes sense to me. Right behind Taft. Okay. So, next up we got James Madison. Now, James Madison was a good man, but we had the War of 1812 during his reign, and he let the White House and Capitol get burned. So that's inexcusable, I should say. And that's where we had the Battle of New Orleans too, which led to a lot of people becoming prominent politically that didn't need to become prominent politically. You just can't let the White House get burned down. I feel like that's just such a mistake. But then there was also some good things. We did like basically win that war. So C-. All right. James Monroe. Monroe Doctrine. Beautiful. The Era of Good Feelings. You know. Dealt with a little bit of economic issues. Missouri Compromise, not good. Can't just keep compromising. Eventually, got to put your foot down. Speaking of which, Thomas Jefferson did put his foot down and ended the slave trade. So that's also why he's up there at A. But I mean, yeah. I mean, can you imagine a time where there would be no more Democrats? Not no more Democrats or no more Republicans, but it's just like one party, and it's not done so by like edicts or government. You know, it's just done because everybody is feeling good. That's why I feel like I got to give him that B+. There you go, B+. We got our first B+ in there. Oh, that was John Quincy Adams. He looked horrible for a time. Cheated on an election, so that's not great. Abandoned his father's party, sort of a lie, just to become president, so that's not great. Imposed tariffs, which is bad. Yeah, just kind of, Gonna give you a D+, sir. Right behind Ford. I can't think of anything really good that this man did. All right, moving on. Going lightning here. Already did Jackson. Already did Martin Van Buren. Already did William Henry Harrison. John Tyler. Where are you, you old bastard? John Tyler. I think. Now, John Tyler was hated by the Democrat Republicans. They were not a fan of him. He ended up leaving, and went to the Democrats, went to the Whigs, went to the New Democrat Republicans. I mean, this guy was just all over the map. The USS Princeton disaster, can't forget about that crazy thing. Tariffs, they tried to impeach the man. I mean, he was just a mess. I'm gonna give him a D. All right, next up, we got James K. Polk, who is a Southern man born in North Carolina. Mexican-American War, not good. That was done purely just to gain land and territory and manifest destiny. So we cannot forgive that as him kind of letting it happen. And that's where Lincoln got the name Spotty, because he was saying, well, where was the shot fired that supposedly started the war? And everyone made fun of him because he didn't like war. You know, I mean, crazy, right? Didn't like war. He goes C plus, right behind Martin Van Buren, I'd say. All right, Zachary Taylor, and the reason why it's not lower than that is because he was an effective executive. Zachary Taylor. We always like putting former commanders in as presidents for whatever reason, which was interesting. This guy was president for just a short while. Gave Utah to the Mormons. Interesting factoid. I had not completely remembered. But that's really nice. You know, I like a guy who can appreciate religious freedom, because we very quickly forgot about the what's it called? About the amendments that we passed right after passing them. It was pretty interesting that the Bill of Rights got trampled on so damn quickly. So yeah, I'm going to put my man, who only was president for a year or so, less than that probably, Zachary Taylor. I'm going to put him at, ooh, this is tough. Mormon colony, but didn't do a lot for the slave issue. He goes C, but I'm going to put him at the top of the C's, actually. There we go. Good man. Solid president. All right. Next up, we got Millard Fillmore. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Millard Fillmore. One-term president. Yep. It's always bad when you got Fugitive Slave Act as well, so that's not good. One is a D plus. I hate it when someone just gets to become president because the other guy died. You know, it's always rough. And I like his placement there in the D plus category. All right. Next up, Franklin Pierce, our most attractive president ever, supposedly. What can we say about him? Bleeding Kansas. This was really a time when we didn't do enough to stop the inevitable, you know? So, but as I say those words, I hear the massive irony there. So I'm thinking to myself, like, what could have been done? What did he do during the Civil War? Let's see that. This stand won him admirers with the emerging Northern Peace Democrats. All right. That gets you pretty close to an F. You're going D, sir. Shh. I'll give you a little bit. But I mean, hey, nobody likes to suspend habeas corpus, but you got to do what you got to do. Anything else I can say about the man? No, Bleeding Kansas, you have to go in there and stop that. You cannot let John Brown just run around like a lunatic. You go bottom of D. I'm sorry, sir. All right, next, what many consider to be our worst president, James Buchanan, did pretty much nothing to stop the bleeding Kansas and more bleeding of Kansas. Proposed constitutional amendment. Interesting. It mentions the Corwin Amendment that would have somehow made slavery and such completely completely exempt from the amending process. So basically we could never get rid of them. So that's not good, but it wasn't all on him. Yeah, Buchanan gets a... I mean, hey, the one thing you can give him credit for is that the Union did not split up really during his term. He just didn't do anything to fix it. All right. Followed by Andrew Johnson, a man who probably should have been impeached. I don't know any redeeming things really about the guy. I'll see if I can find any. Foreign policy. Yeah, nothing really crazy. What can you say? Presidents who take over after other presidents get shot are usually not great. Then you've got someone I really, really like, Ulysses S. Grant. I think Grant... Does Grant go S tier, guys? I don't know. I'd have to find something negative about him to not put him in S tier. Otherwise, he goes A plus or A. My gut tells me that he's right up there, though. Free trade with Hawaii. Gold corner conspiracy. Let's read this one. Oh, it's just about some railroad tycoons. Can't do anything about those guys. Santo Domingo. I mean, I'm half Cuban, and he called for the abolition of slavery in Cuba. Fucking great. Tried to get, Cuba to come over. I mean, think about how much better Cuba would be today if it was a U.S. state and not an independent communist dictatorship. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what negative I can really say about him. I guess there wasn't... There could have been more done, per se. I mean, he got great, amendments passed, though, Or did he? You know what will make the difference for me? When did the 15th Amendment get passed? That's what I need to see. (1870). While he was president. Now, when did the 14th Amendment get passed or ratified? So that's 68. So that was Johnson, actually. Interesting. I guess as president, you don't necessarily need to do a whole bunch, though, for that. All right. All right. He gets A plus. I've said my piece on it. He gets an A plus. All right. Rutherford B. Hayes. I like Rutherford. I think he's a good man. He's got a great beard. End of Reconstruction. I mean, listen. Was Reconstruction the best way to go about it? Probably not. It's kind of like saying, like, oh, had we stayed in Iraq for another 10 years, it'd be a beautiful, burgeoning democracy to inspire its neighbors. Same with Afghanistan. It's like you can't force people to make decisions that they're not going to make for themselves. Tough situation with his election. I'm thinking about now. One-term president. Rutherford gets a solid C minor there. Yeah, I'll put him at the back of the C minus class. Okay, we got Garfield. Don't know much about Garfield. Ooh, reforms. Let's see his foreign policy. Oh, that's right. Shot by Charles Guiteau. And then that led to Chester Arthur becoming president right then and there. All right. So that gives Garfield some bonus points. Garfield's a B plus. I think Chester A. Arthur did about the best he could. Congress had pretty forcefully taken power at this point. So I'm not going to hold that against him. I'm going to give him a nice B. I mean, what are you going to do? He tried. You know, he tried to make things less segregated. Tried civil service reform. Tried naval reform. That's a solid presidency right there. For 4 years, give me that any day for 4 years. Grover Cleveland, the man who served 2 non-consecutive terms, or 22nd and 24th president. Grover Cleveland was a Democrat. Bunch of strikes, bunch of issues during his presidency. Grover Cleveland's kind of like meh for me. I'll put Grover right and behind Taft. But he's got to be, yeah. That sounds right to me. Okay. Now we got Benjamin Harrison, another kind of boring president. Didn't do a whole lot. Annexed Hawaii though, apparently. So that knocks him down a peg. I'm gonna put him at like C minus. We can move on. Okay. Crap. William McKinley. Now we start getting into some more familiar ones. Amazing situation with the Spanish-American War. Was assassinated by a real maniac anarchist named what's his frickin' name? He was named Leon Zolgozzi. Just an absolute cock from an American steelworker from family in Buffalo. Yikes. Okay, William McKinley. Amazing president, right behind Reagan. Next, we got Teddy. Teddy did some things I'm not a huge fan of. He was a bit on the racist side in his writings. Of course, you got to remember the times too. Some coal strikes, not great. Trust busting, not great. Japan, not great to do what you're going to do to Japan like that. Smart guy, Rough Rider, real man's man. Governor of New York, it's good stuff. Vice president, so became president once again through that assassination of the anarchist on McKinley. Panama Canal, very smart and savvy. Didn't like the way he did it, though. I don't like meddling. So that knocks him down a peg. And National Park Act, way crazy, especially with Two Bears, I believe it's called, in, I want to say, Utah. It basically makes, it impossible to tap into natural resources. So that's not fun, because we need to be energy independent in this country. So I'll give him points for being like a nice grandfather for the country. But I listed off like 5 things: railroads, coal strike, Japan, and meddling, that I was not a fan of. So because of that, he goes right under Taft. It's like that. All right. Woodrow Wilson. This one's a controversial one because I know a lot of people hate Woodrow Wilson. I think Woodrow Wilson had a few good ideas. I know some horrible racist shit. Airing the movie in the White House of Birth of a Nation in the White House. Not good. However, he did have the 14 points. He did get us into World War I, which was important because you want a strong Britain and a strong France. And I believe that with German power reconstituted and Austria-Hungarian power reconstituted, moving towards the West, once Russia was defeated without an American presence, Germany would have won that war. And you do not want to see Germany win World War I. I can promise you that. You do not want to see that. You want a strong Britain and Germany, or Britain and France, excuse me, if you're the United States. Mainly strong Britain. So that was important. Had a stroke, I believe, at the end of his life. His wife kind of took over for him, basically, at the end. So yeah, did some very liberal, progressive things that weren't good. As far as war management, I gotta give him credit for that. And League of Nations. And the only reason that we never got in that was because of Republican opposition at home. And I really think that was more just political nonsense than anything else. So he's not an F. But I have to put him above the man that killed millions of Cherokee Indians. You go here, but do you get better than... I'll put you at the top of D+. He's at the top of D+. All right. Hey, 14 points. We came up with 14 points. Strong, very strong points. All right. Warren G. Harding. Apparently a very attractive man. Um, Women could now vote. Apparently that helped him get across the line. Teapot Dome scandal. Apparently he was just too stupid to really know what was going on. So for that reason, I think we got to give him an F. No, you know what? We're going to give him a D minus. It's going to go there. James Buchanan is worse. All right. Now then. Herbert Hoover. What can you say about Herbert Hoover? Didn't do much. Did not do much. Great Depression. Prohibition. Prohibition. With the Volstead Act, he was a big proponent of that nonsense. So not good. Not good. Bonus Army. I just can't think of anything this guy did to like help the nation. I don't want to put him in F, but you go right here, sir. You did hardly anything for the nation. All right, our last two fun ones. All right, put away the computer for these. All right, first I think we go Biden. We got the least info about Biden of the last 80 years of presidents, basically. So that sort of, in some ways, is a leg up, actually, when you think about it, because, you know, I have to assume that there's a lot of time left for him to get things turned around. He's definitely labored and beleaguered in many ways as president, you know. Unfortunately, you know, he got the job later in life, but he's always been known as a little bit of an oddball on DC, on Capitol Hill. But for years, you know, always commanded really, really high posts. In the Senate, was the Judiciary Committee leader. And I've seen some of the things that he's done, the way he handled some committee appointments, like for Justice Bork, or Judge Bork, excuse me, who should have become Justice Bork. And it's probably the worst example of political gamesmanship, that he did not become so. And try to do the same thing with Clarence Thomas. And I don't know if he's really doing a lot to heal the divide, you know? Afghanistan was an absolute mess. Ukraine is better, but messaging is off. Right now, he's definitely worse than Obama. It's 100%. Calvin Coolidge was just so much smarter than he was. I'll put him right here. D+. Could improve, but, you know, we'll see. Inflation, too. I forgot about inflation. Oof. I feel like I'm doing Gerald Ford dirty. Whose inflation was worse? Let's find that out. All right, I pulled up a 1970s inflation chart. We almost hit 12% in 76, right before 76. So I'm going to put Biden above Ford for that. That was the tiebreaker, the inflation. But yeah, very close, nail biter. And of course, there's enough time for him to go below Ford. And now Trump. Donald J. Trump. Left a lot to be desired, I will tell you that. Only got one term. Was a shoo-in for a second term before COVID. Was borne out by a lot of the polling and a lot of the economic indicators, really. Not so much polling, but the indicators. So great economy. but terrible, terrible, god-awful messaging. Funny, though, you know? We need to learn to laugh a little bit more in this country, I think. I'm going to put him at the top of B+. There. That feels about right. All right. We did it. Let me pull the chart into, hold on here. I can zoom out further on this. All right, beautiful. This was kind of, I didn't pre-plan for this to be like this, but in the end, this is kind of how I wanted it, where you got S and F only filled with one person, because I really think that you shouldn't share the best and the worst. It should just kind of be like there. There was a couple times I really wanted to go F, and once or twice I almost went S for people. But yeah, I mean, hey, this is the list, the way it's constructed, and I like it. I think the one thing I want to look at is there anybody, like, since I was able to add everybody, that I'm feeling like, oh, I put them too low or too high? Yeah, I think that's it. All right, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know where you agree, disagree with me. I'm sure 0 people are going to have it exactly like I have it. It's basically like trying to match up, what's it called? March Madness brackets. It can be so different. But let me know. All right, guys. Appreciate it. I want to come out with more history type videos. I'm a big history guy. So I definitely love it and definitely love relearning and learning more stuff as I go. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks. Peace out.